All right. G'day. Welcome back to Collectivitis, the podcast where we dissect the disease that is collectivism. My name is Pietro. This is Max. How you doing, Max?
Not too bad, Pietro. Good morning. How are you?
Good. Good morning. Yes, it is a good morning. We are to see whether there are many good mornings left, especially for our good friend that we're going to be talking about today, Mr. Julian Assange. So we haven't really spoken about Julian yet on the podcast, partly because really the story of Julian Assange has been such a slow burn that started in like 2006 and ramped up a lot more in 2010. And there hasn't really been any updates. He's been jailed for such a long time recently with nothing, no sign of hope, no sign of change, no sign of anything. There's been no reason to talk about Julian Assange other than simply to advocate for freeing him, but there wasn't any hope or talk about that. But just this week, there is what many are seeing as Julian Assange's last stand, his last hope before the abyss that is the US judicial system takes over, because he is set to be extradited to the US from the UK, where he's currently being held. And his final appeal hearing has just happened this week. And there's two judges in the UK right now who are deciding whether or not the US and the monster that is the US judicial system and the secret services and the government and all of the horrific beings that have that we libertarians are so against, get their hands on Julian and have their horrific way with him, as they inevitably will. So we are at crunch time for Julian Assange. If there's ever a time to talk about him, it is now. I know the question you asked me was "Good morning, how are you this morning?" And I've dived straight into the depths
Re-
and darkness of Julian Assange's dire situation. But good, thanks. How's your morning, Max?
Remind me to never ask how you are again.
So sorry. How are you? How are you doing?
Better than Julian Assange.
That's a low blow, man. Everyone's doing better than Julian Assange right now. He's been. Did you know?
That's true, but he's also achieved more than I'll ever achieve in life, so he can have that one over me.
I mean, Julian Assange is an absolute hero. Let's put it that way first, and let's say that there's the reason they're going after him so hard is in no small part due to the fact that he has genuinely taken big chunks of have done big chunks of damage to the state, and
Mm-hmm.
especially the US war state and war machine, and the Democratic Party in the US, the Democrats
That's why they want him so
monopoly on
bad.
monopoly on use of the security systems for political reasons and political gain and all the rest of that. So for sure, he's a hero. The place he's being held right now is in the UK. It's Belmarsh Prison. Uh, I didn't know this. I've done a little bit of digging into Julian Assange in the last couple of days. Surrounding both the trial, but also the hearing. Sorry, but also for this episode. And Belmarsh Prison is referred to as the British Guantanamo Bay. So he is certainly not being held in anything close to humanitarian conditions there. He's already in a very severe punishment. And he's actually the only thing the UK authorities have on him is he breached some bail conditions. So they've actually been keeping him
Mm.
completely against their own laws in the UK as well. But that's the current situation on Julian Assange. Let's talk about him. I mean, I'd like to talk about him a little bit more today, a little bit about the history of it all, for those who might not be aware, but also of I suppose, the consequences and what all of it means in the broader picture of libertarianism and of fighting against the state.
Yeah, looking forward to the chat. I am guilty admission, I don't know as much about the current situation regarding Assange as most of our libertarian compatriots. Um, but no, like the basic sort of outline. I know that the reason that yeah, like you said, it's basically a death wish, him being extradited to the US because they're going to have their way with him, basically. That's the current fight. Do we know, is there a date on the trial or the extradition?
Well, they've had the hearing. So he was actually ordered to be extradited in 2022. That was the
Mm.
the there was a trial on that, or a hearing, or whatever they do to decide these things in the UK. And he is to be extradited. Now, there were concerns over his health. There's a bunch of appeals. It's like with anything, there's always all these appeals that you can go through. There's always, one more avenue that some law somewhere allows you to have a trial or something. And because of these, so they've gotten to this one, and this is an appeal on that initial hearing. And I think it is to do with his health, especially. Now, they had the hearing this week, just recently, and I don't think there's a firm date on when they have to decide. There's two judges specifically. They're deliberating now. So, look, by the time this episode comes out, they might know. It might be a few days still. We certainly will keep updating on the story. But as of right now, on the 24th of February, we still don't know when or what is going to happen to Julian Assange. Look, let's start with a little bit of the backstory for those who don't know. This is going to be very much broad strokes. I'm sure lots of people know much more about the Assange saga than we do, but to put it within the lens and the scope of where libertarianism fits, this is probably enough of a background timeline and story. So essentially, he founded Wikileaks, which is this website which specialized in allowing whistleblowers to provide documents, provide evidence that would put whoever that they believed was supposed to be public knowledge, and that the public would benefit from having this knowledge. This whole freedom of information idea, freedom of the press. And WikiLeaks had a platform which gained notoriety. They started in 2006, but it was in 2010 that they really blew up. Pun unintended, because the first video is of blowing up, so that would be in poor taste. But that they really, I was about to say, exploded onto the scene. Can I?
How many puns can you put in here?
Are there any non-war related euphemisms for bursting into power? Bursting's like a balloon. There you go. They burst onto the scene. It's not too war related as far as
I feel like it still links in there a little bit.
Anyway, in 2010, they emerged onto the scene.
There we go.
In a much bigger scope. There you go. Sniper rifles. We're back to war stuff. I feel like this is a problem with language. It's not a problem with me. I'm just using the words I would normally use, but they keep relating to the military-industrial complex. Anyway, now in 2010, they released a video of some footage, which we're going to show in a little bit, of the war in Iraq. Well, they released lots of stuff, but the one that really gained some notoriety was this video of the war in Iraq, where this US helicopter is shooting at what they believe to be enemies, and what they believe to be someone carrying a weapon, but really it's journalists carrying a camera, and they shoot them all down. And they're kind of laughing and smirking about it while on the microphones. And then there is a van that pulls up to try and kind of take the wounded away and keep them alive. And they shoot that down too. And again, civilians, and there were children on the in the van. So horrific example of the stuff that was happening in the Iraq war, and the way that the troops were conducting themselves. And very much against the narrative that was being portrayed of the war at the time. So it embarrassed the US immensely. This was Obama's presidency at the time. Embarrassed the US immensely, and that was pretty much, since that moment, then Julian Assange has had a target on his back. Now, immediately that same year, he was in Sweden at the time. Swedish authorities come out with rape allegations. Two women accused Julian Assange of rape, as seems to always be the case now whenever there's dissenting opinions, whenever there's individuals with dissenting opinions, is the first thing that happens is that rape or some sexual misconduct allegations come out. We spoke about it just earlier, or just late last year, with Russell Brand. It's no coincidence that these allegations didn't come out against Julian Assange in 2009 and they came out in 2010. It's no coincidence that the stuff against Russell Brand came out now that he's a dissenting voice against everything that the government and the state does, and didn't come out prior when he was, completely, when he was a compliant, lefty. So that happens, and what it looks like they're going to try and pin this stuff on Assange. He flees, or he fights it a little bit. He denies them the entire time, and eventually in 2012 he escapes to the Ecuadorian embassy. Now the rape allegations actually do get dropped eventually. They kind of linger for a while, but they do get dropped, and nothing comes of them, unsurprisingly. But Assange has bigger fish to fry because the UK is after him. He's in the Ecuadorian embassy is in London. The UK is after him for escaping, for fleeing bail conditions. And
So, do you know what his link to the Ecuadorian embassy was? Because I know, like, he sought like political refuge there, and they took him
yeah,
in. Like, is he got any sort of link to Ecuador? Is there any sort of reason why they would have accepted him, or was it
I suspect he probably asked for political asylum from anyone he could
asylum?
find.
Yeah,
And the Ecuadorian embassy was either the first to respond or the only to respond,
yeah.
or the one which gave him the most
Mhm.
reassuring answer. But I imagine that, look, I don't know. Someone might know. It might not be public information, but um, the Ecuadorian embassy certainly is very pro Assange for
Mhm.
a long time.
Yeah.
Now, as we
Their president at the time in Ecuador, I'm pretty certain, was like very left-leaning, anti-war. So in that sort of sense, it makes a bit of sense.
Yes, and in fact, you'll find that a lot of the support for the Free Assange movement, apart from like the libertarian elements, comes a lot from that kind of dissident left, like your Greens type
Mm.
lefties, your Ocasio-Cortez type lefties in the US. Those the dissident free speech left who uh, if they ruled us all, we would starve and die because they have no idea about economics, but they're pretty good on free speech, and these social rights kind of things. So they've been great on Assange the whole time, and in fact, most of the stuff on Assange is from them, or from libertarians, and libertarians have been good on Assange for a very long time as well. Anyway, he's this whole time while he's in the Ecuadorian embassy, WikiLeaks is still going. They're still releasing all sorts of stuff. In fact, in 2016, the big stuff on he very much helps Hillary Clinton to lose the
Mm.
election against Donald Trump. He's not particularly pro-Trump, but I think he says in an email at some point that he believes that it would be worse if the Democrats won, because the Democrats have this stranglehold on the justice system and on the the national security apparatus, which, I mean, if you didn't believe it then, you can certainly see it now with what they're doing with Donald Trump. Like, it's no secret that the CIA and the FBI and the whole judicial system there and all of the laws, this whole idea of lawfare, like warfare but with the law, is very much controlled by the Democratic Party and by the Democrats there. So if you didn't believe him then, you can certainly believe him now. And he also thought that the left was more likely to spark a war with Russia or China, which, lo and behold, the first,
They're
well,
doing their best to try that.
they are doing their absolute best with the Ukraine thing, and now they're trying to spark more wars in the Middle East. But look, regardless of all of that, he does hamper Hillary's campaign, and he also thinks Hillary is especially odious. He calls her a sociopath and stuff, which is right. So that whole the email leak, the famous email leak, actually wasn't WikiLeaks that first got that. They signal boosted another smaller leaker, but they revealed all of the documents which show that the Democratic Party like underhandedly made sure that Bernie Sanders would lose to Hillary. So Bernie Sanders has been chopped down twice in presidential primaries for the Democrats, where he was either likely to win or looked like he could win, both times because he wasn't an establishment candidate. And WikiLeaks are the ones who revealed this. So they showed that, the Democratic Party was not impartial and that they made sure that Hillary would win against Bernie Sanders. So all of this is happening while Assange is in Ecuador in asylum. He then
In the
is
Ecuadorian embassy in asylum.
sorry, not in Ecuador, in the Ecuadorian embassy in London, in asylum, where he's living in like these four walls of of he's kind of going mad. In fact,
It's also fascinating being in the embassy, like the British police were just waiting outside in case he just happened to accidentally step outside that embassy. Like, having his morning coffee, and oops, I've walked outside the gate, and you guys can arrest me.
It is actually it's very funny because like the state has all of this power and all of these laws that they can break and mold, but
But
for
they won't
whatever
cross
reason
that fence.
that one is one that they cannot cross. And he would,
Yep.
he would give he would come out the window in the Ecuadorian embassy and he'd be speaking on the street and there'd be people that
Yeah.
gather, and whenever he'd hold like kind of press conferences there
Mm.
in the middle of London, like geographical London, but technically this little snippet is part of Ecuador.
How
And
cool would that
so
be though, just to be like on the street in London and just everybody show what you're doing. Julian speaking.
yeah, exactly. It is the imagery of that is insane. And you can see it's embarrassing for the state and for the US, and especially for us and the UK as puppets of the US regime. Um, so anyway, all of this is happening, and in fact, in well, I was thinking if I was Julian Assange and I was stuck in that Ecuadorian embassy, for 24 hours a day for 7 years, and you see him kind of going nuts inside. He's like,
Mm.
there's because then they start to record him like illegally. They put cameras and they put microphones in the embassy, completely illegally, to record his conversations and videos of him. And
Who did that?
some
The
of
the British.
I forget if it's the British or the US, or if it's the British
How
on
do they
behalf
get
of the
how do
US,
they
or if
get
it's
them in
the
there?
US. Well, because there's lots of like cleaners and stuff that go in and out. And so
Ah,
they just get. In fact, they talk
right.
about they put microphones in the women's bathroom in the Ecuadorian embassy because Assange had gotten so paranoid that he would hold meetings with people in the women's bathroom. And
Jeez.
even there, they end up having a microphone. So they record conversations with him and his attorney, stuff that's super illegal. In fact,
Imagine
and this
everything
is
else you would hear other than the meetings when you got microphones in the toilets.
yeah. There's just fucking 16 CIA agents in some van, and they're like, shit, we're listening to them pissing and shitting again. But hey, it's my job. I gotta listen in.
Oh
Was
boy.
that Assange? Was that Assange? No, no, just another fart. Well, good.
Oh boy.
um, yeah. So, and like, um, it's important to note that in all of this, the US state, the UK state, all of these institutions that put all of this importance on like the law and following the letter of the law, and what Assange did was not following the letter of the law and all this stuff. They break all of their laws or countless of their laws in persecuting Assange. Like it's so two-faced and bullshit. So some of the things they break is they revoke his political asylum, which is illegal under international law.
Mm.
The British police end up going onto sovereign territory when they go to take him from the Ecuadorian embassy, when they do eventually take him there against their own laws, against
Mm.
Ecuadorian laws, against international laws. Recording his meeting with his attorney, absolutely against laws in all of the Western countries, including the UK, including the US, probably including Ecuador, I would imagine. And then he's actually charged. The reason that he's under charges now is he's charged under the Espionage Act, which is a US law which cannot be applied to non-US citizens, which he
Mm.
is not a US citizen. He's actually an Australian citizen. And so they're breaking all of their own laws willy-nilly wherever they want, wherever it's convenient for them, to try and persecute this guy for the laws that he broke. So when you look at it from like the letter of the law idea, it's completely absurd. It's just because he pissed off the people in power by making them look like fools and murderers and psychopaths, which they are.
Hmm.
So, problem is these fools and murderers and psychopaths have the reins of power and they're now coming
It's
to.
a it's gonna say it's a perfect example of why the law isn't the be all and end all. Like, morals and ethics are far more important.
Yeah, I would encourage anyone who wants to go deeper on that topic is to read Frederick Bastiat's book, The Law, which talks exactly about this concept about how, the law is manipulated and used by states to do whatever it is
Mm.
that they want to do. Anyway, back to the timeline, back to the story
Sorry.
of Assange. No, I deviated, not you. Anyway, we started talking about pissing and shitting there at some point as well. So he's in 2019. I think there's a change in leadership of the Ecuadorians. I think their leader, I'm not sure if it's a president or a prime minister or whatever it is, election won, election lost, and the new one doesn't favor Assange. The new one is, for whatever reason, pro-American and ends Assange's asylum in the Ecuadorian embassy. So that's where the video of and we'll watch that video as well, where the video of the British come in, they arrest him, they take him out, and he's indicted by the US for releasing classified information in that same year. So immediately after he's out of the embassy, indictment. And then in 2022, there is the extradition order to the US. Extradition meaning, getting him, taking him, moving him there. So he is to be extradited to the US. It's unclear whether
what year was it? Did you say that he was indicted?
2019. So the same year his what's it called? His asylum ended.
Interesting.
In the Ecuadorian embassy.
I was just trying to see if I can make any links between like president of the USA. So Trump would have been president at that stage.
Trump started the whole process against Assange. Trump is not pro Assange. Trump's administration. Trump,
even though Assange, helped take down Hillary's campaign technically.
Yes. So, I mean, how much you want to attribute this to Trump is up to you, kind of. Trump is very pro Assange when the Wikileaks stuff comes out in 2016. He's, in all those speeches, I love Wikileaks.
He probably knows that he's going to be next. He's at risk of being exploited too.
Yes. It is Trump's administration who then starts the stuff against Assange. You have to keep in mind that the stuff against Assange is bigger than a president. It's not really a president who... Like it's the deep state, it's the three-letter agencies, it's the security apparatus, it's the US war machine that's doing this stuff. How much of that was actually probably what it was there were all these forces looking to persecute Assange, and Trump is too stupid or too ineffective or too anything to make any kind of stand against it, and just goes, yeah, of course that's what's going to happen. And that's kind of the biggest criticism of Trump, is that he talks this big game about draining the swamp, but he actually has no idea about what it is or how it works or how to stop it. Certainly not in his first term. I would suspect no different in his second term. I mean, he might have a better idea, but this is exactly a case of that, right? Under Trump, the exact same stuff was happening to persecute Assange. So the indictment in 2019, 2022, extradition to the US is ordered. And then now in 2024, we have this final appeal whereby if these two judges decide to extradite him, he will be extradited. And make no mistake, Assange has been held in horrific conditions since he left the Ecuadorian embassy. I mean, even in the Ecuadorian embassy, he was stuck in a house for 7 years, close to 7 years. Whereas now he's been stuck in solitary confinement, where he has 23 hours a day in a box, and he gets an hour a day in a concrete courtyard where he can't talk to anyone, he can't see anyone. He's constantly disoriented. They showed that picture of him in ill health. He looks horrifically bad.
Isn't it just sinister and disgusting that he's being held in these conditions, one, and it's very well known how poorly he's doing, but then the US is saying, no, bring him to us. They're licking their lips saying, bring him to us. We want our way with him. This guy's life can't really get much worse than what it is at the current moment. And yet they still just want him. They're like wolves knocking at the door.
Well, it's a case of embarrassment at this point for the US. It's we have to get our guy. We have to. Let's start looking at some videos, because there's stuff we can talk to through these videos. But I mean, the conditions he's been kept in are close to as horrific as they can be. And it's sometimes it's weird to, when you're looking at something in the past, you look at he was kept in solitary confinement for 6 years, and now he's out. If that were the situation, it's kind of wow, that must have been a shit time. But it's so weird to imagine he is still in solitary confinement. If I picture right now, what is Julian Assange doing? He's sitting in a dark box. He's sitting in a dark box with no one to talk to.
Yeah.
And how miserable and horrific that must be. When it's still currently happening, it's extra horrific and horrifying. Because if he's come through it, then you at least know he'll be all right. We don't know what conditions he's in mentally. He could be. He could have lost it. He could have. I mean, who knows what is it? 5 years of solitary confinement does to someone.
Yeah,
it's horrific. It's horrific. It's a fate worse than death, probably, for some people.
I was going to say, if you ask me, I'd rather be dead or slaving away, working my ass off as a prisoner, or fighting other murderers for my own survival than sitting there in a dark box with nothing but my own thoughts for that long.
Yeah, exactly. At least you'd have some mental stimulus if you were slaving away in some. It's a fate. Yeah, it's a fate worse than death in many ways. So I think that's important to note, is that what they're doing to him is not just inhumane. It's inhumane for the worst of the worst criminals. The worst of the worst criminals, we kill them before we do this shit to them. In this prison, the rest of the people who are in held there are, rapists, murderers, whatever, pedophiles, and none of them are in the same 24-hour solitary confinement conditions that Assange is in. So I think that's important to note is like, it's all well and good to talk about the process and the timeline and everything, but what they're doing to him is they're slowly killing him, death by 1,000 cuts, much worse than just a bullet to the head. So anyway, on that somber note, the first video I wanted to show is the original thing that sparked it all. So it's from an ABC broadcast which is good because they narrate it and explain what's happening. But this is the video that started it all. It's called, what's it called? It's called Collateral Murder is what they named it. So aptly named.
In April of 2010, Wikileaks released this video on its website, titled Collateral Murder. It's a recording of a US Apache gun site as it strafes over Baghdad in 2007. It shows 18 people, including 2 Reuters journalists, walking through a courtyard. The camera being carried by one of the journalists is wrongly identified as a weapon.
That's a weapon, yeah.
The order is given to engage.
Light them all up.
And the helicopter opens fire.
Hey, Roger. Keep shooting.
After the volley of shots, a van pulls up to rescue any survivors before it too is fired upon.
Clear. Come on.
It's a shocking sight and in jarring contrast with what we hear.
Oh yeah, look at that, right through the windshield.
Later, it's revealed the van was carrying 2 children.
Oh, it's their fault for bringing their kids to a battle. That's right.
Reuters, the employer of the 2 journalists, had tried to get a hold of the footage under the Freedom of Information Act, but was denied by the US government.
Namir was. So I mean, if you wanna see pure evil, there it is. Like the complete. And I think the point Assange makes is like how desensitized and how corrupted by war these people had become.
And that's the first thought I had, was like the fact they're laughing at it while they're doing it, and shouldn't have brought their kids to a battle. Like, what fucking battle?
Yeah, exactly. What battle? What battle did they bring their kids to? Fucking.
Jeez.
Yeah, and the rest of the video, in fact, they don't even show all of it. The rest of the video, they kind of like, you can hear there's snippets where they're like laughing at dead bodies and stuff. They're like, oh shit, that car just drove over a dead body. Like, gnarly, dude. Like the fucking worst of the worst stereotypes around American douchebaggery in, dealing with death of people from, how brave of you to shoot them down from a helicopter from safety. Like, oh, you are such a good little warrior. So powerful and strong. Well done. Good job.
Well, that's part of like, any military, especially like the Australian Defence Force, is like one of their what do you call it, like motives or concepts with employing people, is we turn you from a civilian into a soldier. Like, we basically strip down everything you think about life and readjust your morals.
Turn you into a weapon, like an unthinking, unfeeling weapon. And I mean, I'm sure even prior to like, these particular soldiers are clearly psychopaths. And how much of that is due to just like constant exposure to war and to horror? And I'm sure they've seen horrific things. I'm sure they've had horrific things happen to people around them. Like, that's the whole point, right? It's that war does this. And the war machine is to blame more than these soldiers. These soldiers obviously is horrific. But Assange talks about like the corrupting impact of war and the lies of what the US government is saying. Like, these, we're killing civilians, we're murdering civilians for no reason, just because they're there, because we have a hunch and we have no risk or whatever. So that's where that all starts. So I mean, that's the one that sparked it all. Now, that particular video was released by a soldier who was horrified by what was happening and what he was seeing. His name was Bradley Manning. He's now since become Chelsea Manning. He's transgender, and he did some jail time. But interestingly, like, he, who was the whistleblower, did jail time and now is free. And he's a staunch supporter of Assange. he even came out and supported Assange at a certain point later on. I can't remember exactly what year, knowing that they would give him jail time for it. And he took another 7 or 8 months of jail time just for standing up for Assange. So she now, it may be a she, but she's definitely got some fucking balls when it comes to Assange. So anyway, the next video is of Assange getting arrested and getting pulled out of the Ecuadorian embassy. So I think that's an important one to have a look at as well.
No worries.
So if you can't hear what he's saying there are other there is other footage that you can hear him a little bit more clearly. He says you can resist, you must resist. He's talking to whoever's watching. Then he also says the UK must resist, obviously resist to the extradition. But what I find interesting about that is his message, right? He is the most persecuted man in England, possibly the world, other than maybe Snowden or some Putin or something. And he's saying, you can resist, you must resist. And it just highlights how, like, if I'm hearing that, I'm thinking, like, what a hero, first of all. What an absolute, like, he has given his life and he's given everything, literally everything. He's given the sunlight in his day he's given 23 hours of sunlight in his day to this cause that is just and that is, of exposing the lies and exposing the horrors of what the state does and how the state completely controls narratives and the world, regardless of the will of the people, where it supposedly gets its power from. And you're thinking, well, I can resist, I must resist. And then it kind of sinks in, and it's like, well, more important than actually stopping WikiLeaks and more important than actually stopping Assange from releasing anything else in the future, why are they persecuting him like this? And it's clear. It's because you're meant to make the connection of, shit, if I actually succeed in resisting the way that Assange is telling me to, and I do it well enough and I do it enough that it actually does chunks of damage to the government, this is what they'll do to me. The example of Assange is supposed to be not a warning. It's supposed to be something that scares you into submission, scares you into realizing, shit, righteous and just as I may think my causes are, they have power and they can stop me and ruin everything about my life. So that was my thoughts on that video. What did you think?
Yeah, it's moving just to, I don't know. I've not actually seen that footage before. So just to see it like in the flesh almost happening in front of you, just you feel it like you are there.
Yeah, and it's I mean, you can imagine it was kind of even more horrifying at the time because he's very erudite and charismatic and well spoken when you hear him in the interviews. And for a long time, he was interviewed like all throughout, even prior to being in the Ecuadorian embassy. And he's very sharp and he's always clean shaven and looking good. And then when they're arresting him there, and the photos that we see of him now of him disheveled and with the big beard and looking distressed, and it's kind of like, well, shit, they got to him, this hero of freedom. They got to him. He's in all sorts. It's hard to see. It sucks to see. Are
there any recent interviews with him? I mean, probably not, considering
there's
he's in
one
solitary
photo
confinement.
we've seen nothing from him. There's one photo which was taken of him in like to as part of the case that he was sick and that he was not well. And I mean, and anyone can look it up. I don't have it prepared to show on short notice, but he doesn't look well. He's got his eyes closed. He's kind of bearded. He looks pale. He looks like sickly. That's all we've gotten from Assange. At the hearing, so the hearing the other day that's just happened, he was too ill to attend. So I mean, they're killing him. They are killing him.
I'm sure he would have very, very, very good lawyers, but geez, you imagine if he wasn't like physically ill enough to appear in court. I'm sure he'd be struggling to speak.
Yeah, we have no idea what mental state he's in or anything. We don't know any of that. And yeah, lots of people were hoping to see him in court, but too ill to appear. Or that's the story anyway. You don't know anything with these things.
Yeah. Hopefully we're wrong. It's just a bit of a charade, and he's thriving. He's playing the game, but I think that's probably unlikely.
Well, yeah, who knows? I'd like to. That's a very optimistic view of it all. That he's just playing and toying with them. I think there's a couple of libertarian points that I wanted to make at this point. So one is this idea, like, just it shows the absurdity of all of it, right? Like, in theory, if we give the most charitable impression of what the state is and where it gets its power from, like, it gains its power from the consent of the governed, right? Like, it's the fact that we have agreed to give this state certain powers that allows it to tax us and to regulate us and to make laws and whatnot. That's like the moral code behind it all, that statists accept, that people who want us to believe in the legitimacy of government accept. And there can be no rights that the state has that cannot be applied to individuals. The state can't have, like, it's made up from individual rights. So the state can't have rights that individuals don't have. And yet, the entire reason for this persecution, the entire reason for all of this, is because the state had secrets. The state had secrets which most of the individuals who supposedly are the consent of the governed would find abhorrent, and once they were exposed, did find abhorrent. But it is illegal and unacceptable to release these secrets of the state to people to allow them to make their own minds up. And yet the individual has none of these rights. All of the things that you know and do and have are completely permissible for the government to know everything about them, whether you want them to or not. Surveillance, secret tapping of phones, televisions, computers, all of this stuff. A lot of this was also released by WikiLeaks. WikiLeaks exposed lots of the surveillance state that they didn't even have authorization to. The CIA didn't have authorization to be using, and the Department of Homeland Security in the US. So the state, which has supposedly gained its right from individuals, is allowed to have all the secrets that it wants. And if you try to expose these secrets, even though the individuals who supposedly give it power want to know them, you are a criminal and you will be given a fate worse than death. But you're not allowed any secrets. You as the individual are not allowed any secrets. And when we talk about the individual versus the state, I don't think there's a better example of, if you want to try and imagine the individual, if you want to try and picture the individual, as Julian Assange. I think, Julian Assange is the individual who shows you just how disparate the rights that an individual has compared to the rights that a state has are.
And like usual, there's rules for thee, but not for me.
Exactly. That's exactly it.
It bloody empowers you to resist, though. Like, it's just like, just watching that footage, there's a fire burning in me. So how do we resist? How do we fight this as a whole? I was going to say as a collective, but maybe not as a collective.
Yeah, well, I mean, that's the question, right? We're all trying to figure out ways in which we can fight it. Strangleholds that you can grab wherever you can grab them. I mean, certainly what Assange did with WikiLeaks did more damage than many other things. There's all the different avenues that we talk about all the time. Is it the electoral system through which we can impose libertarianism and individual rights and property rights, or is it through converting people and gathering a mass big enough to sway the majority? Is it through exposure to things like this? Is it through leaking of state secrets? Is it through, I don't know, putting pipe bombs in government buildings? I don't know what the answer is, but we're trying we're not trying that last one. We're trying the legal avenues. I don't want to get, you know, dragged out of an Ecuadorian embassy just yet. Heroic as I find Assange, I'm not fucking willing to do 23 hours of solitary confinement. Thank you very much.
Collective
last
artists
thing that
live from Pietro's dark solo room.
Yeah, if they leave me with a microphone, I'll just fucking podcast 24/7 to the abyss. The last thing I wanted to talk about is that recently the Australian government has finally had the balls to say something. So Assange is an Australian, right, who swayed the 2016 election, had influence on the 2016 election, who has swayed global politics more than anything that the Australian government has ever had the power to do. Like, it's our moment in the sunshine of actually doing something on the global stage. Super, like, what an opportunity, right, for Australia to actually be something other than a puppet for the US. And invariably, for the majority of the time that this saga has gone on, the Australian government has been nothing but a puppet. Has said nothing, has only supported the legal proceedings, has said nothing about freeing Assange. The Greens have been good on this for a while. Obviously, the Libertarians have been good on this for a while, but the majors have been no good. To their credit, Albanese has in the last year come out and said, you know, he supports freeing Assange. There was a federal bill or a federal vote just recently that came out where the majority of the federal parliament has come out in support of Assange and freeing Assange. So finally, the Australian government is calling for freeing Assange. But I want to show just a clip, and I'm
saying that, but what are they actually doing for it?
Well, they're calling for they're just taking a position. Like, yeah. I mean, we have no authority. What are we going to do? Go to war with the US and the UK? Like, wait, we got these new nuclear submarines. Let's fucking try them out.
I don't think we have them yet.
You thought Russia was the problem? Let's fucking go. Nuclear submarines. Anyway, we hadn't wanted to talk about Scott Morrison ever again after we talked about him becoming a military industrial complex slave, just as he was a piece of shit when he was prime minister. But let's go a little bit more into what a piece of shit he was as prime minister. This is what he was saying when he was PM about the Assange saga.
Look, Julian Assange will get the same consular support and assistance that any other Australian would receive. People's fame and doesn't make any difference on the impact of how these decisions are made. He's an Australian citizen. He'll have that support. I might ask Maurice to comment because she's been in touch with the High Commissioner regarding this issue, but he'll get the same treatment as everyone else. Nothing special.
Prime Minister, as we know, Mr Assange is...
There's just there's nothing special about this situation at all. It's just, you know, someone revealing some state secrets about them doing war crimes and being persecuted harder than any other person has ever been persecuted in the history of journalistic integrity. Nothing special about that. Why should we? We're just going to follow the laws. Just going to follow the procedure. There's nothing special about this complete, you know, tyrannical overreach and desperate incarceration and annihilation of journalistic integrity. Nothing special about that. We're just got to follow the rules.
I'm normally for, you know, like people not getting preferential treatment, but I think this is a very, very strong exception. Where
Assange has gotten preferential treatment by the fucking US and by the fucking judicial systems around the world. No shit, he's gotten some fucking preferential treatment. They're trying to fucking murder him. He's gotten a little preferential treatment. Shouldn't get any from us, not from Australia. Hey, we wouldn't want to overstep in trying to defend one of our citizens from being fucking slaughtered, and thrown into
Morrison's piece of shit,
thrown into a prison and held in conditions that they don't even keep for murderers and rapists. Despite the fact that not only is he a murderer, neither a murderer nor a rapist, but he's actually done an incredible amount of good for freedom of speech and freedom of information. Nothing special about that. Anyway, it makes complete sense now knowing that immediately Scott Morrison, well, not immediately, but very quickly after not being PM anymore, Scott Morrison went straight into the military industrial complex, working for both the Australia and the US for a military company. What a fucking surprise. What a fucking surprise, considering what he said there. Anyway, look, that's the saga on Assange. I think we'll probably do an update on it once something actually happens. What do we think? Do we think he'll get extradited or not? I suppose is the question. What do you think?
Obviously, hope not, but most likely yes.
Yeah, that's my thoughts as well. I'm
Yeah. So you've just ruined my day by showing me that video of Scott Morrison. Every day we don't have to listen to him say something stupid is a good day.
Yeah, sorry. Well, anyway, you asked how my day was, and I went into a 30-minute tirade. Now I've ruined your day by bringing up Scott. Look, we remain hopeful, but I think I tend to be pessimistic about this stuff, and I think it's a bit of a somber recognition of reality. Like we've talked about Javier Milei winning, and we talked about the vote not getting up, the voice to parliament not getting up, and we talk about these kind of libertarian wins. This is a somber reminder that just how powerful the state is, and just how unlikely it is, just how difficult it is to get actual change to happen, and just how dogged and single-minded they are in persecuting enemies of the state, which we purport to be. So
I think part of that somber reminder too is the fact that like our wins, like your examples, Milei winning and the voice to parliament not getting up, these wins are purely just resistance. We're not really achieving anything. We're just stopping bad things from happening. And then the losses are very, very dark, bad things happening, like Assange's situation.
Yeah.
Wouldn't it be nice if we had a world where people were just left alone? Hey, do whatever you want. Don't hurt anyone.
It would be nice. But we'll get there. And I think you're right. I think that's a great point, that the wins we have tend to be only examples of slowing the spread of the state rather than any actual victories. Javier Milei, I mean, we can do an update on Javier Milei in a little bit. He has been doing some stuff. But my point is, let's not celebrate too early. It's still a horrific, dark place we live in. Anyway, on that bright note, I hope you have a great rest of the day. I hope you don't have to think about Scott Morrison for the rest of the day. I certainly hope I won't. If you don't already, you can follow us on Instagram, Spotify, YouTube, and Twitter. If you haven't, give us a like, give us a share, give us a review, leave us a comment. We'd love to hear from you. It's much more fun when we're talking to you guys as well, hearing your thoughts. Other than that, we'll catch you next time.
Catch you next time. I'm going to go sit in the cold shower and cry.
Good for you.